Join me over coffee as we delve into topics that affect our everyday lives. And today I'm in conversation with Dave Shorey, and he is the CEO of Georgian College at the Owen Sound campus. And today we're going to be talking about leaving home and going off to college, universities, and for the very first time. And what are the strategies that will help parents and students have a very successful first year? And welcome, Dave. And this is such a treat.
Thank you.
This is lovely to have you and to meet you in person.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
So,
Mutual. The feeling's mutual.
So, this is a big deal. And as parents, we try to prepare our children as they age to become somewhat independent, but going off to post-secondary school, leaving home for the very first time, and maybe not having all the skills they thought they needed when they get to the residence or the location, whether it's a few miles away or whether it's a plane ride away.
Yeah.
So you're here to help us through that, navigate through that.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that, and thank you for the opportunity. I grew up in this area, and I went to high school in Owen Sound, and I loved being in this area. But for a lot of people, we had to move away. We had to go somewhere, to go to school. I'm proud to be. I'm the executive director for the Owen Sound campus. We have our president and CEO, Kevin Weaver, who's from Hanover, so from the region, right? So that's a point of pride as well. But the ability to actually advance post-secondary education back where I grew up is something that's personally and professionally fulfilling and quite meaningful for me. But for many, they leave. And so if we think of it from the context of someone coming from Grey Bruce, Simcoe, and what that might mean, as you'd said, it might be a car ride away, it might be a plane ride away, but regardless, it's a shift. And that shift is something that some people hide the jitters around better than others, but I would suggest to you that everyone feels that way. I spent a lot of time supporting students, in particular with first-year student transition, when I was working at Wilfrid Laurier University, and I'd spent a number of years there, both studying and working in student affairs. And it became the priority of my career to figure out how best to support students in their transition and to talk through some of those things that they are experiencing as they lead into that transition and through in their first year.
Well, as parents of three sons, we thought that we were doing a great job in preparing our sons to be independent by the time they finished high school, because we always said to them, there's life after high school, and you can choose what that could be. It could be college, it could be university, it could be apprenticeship, or it could be travel. But what we wanted them to do is feel confident enough that they could leave home and still feel connected to home. So we took our first son to Guelph University, and he knows how to sew on a button, and he knows how to do laundry, and he knows how to manage his money, and he knows how to collaborate and work with other people, and he make decisions age appropriate all the way along, so that he would become a solid young adult. So we deposit him, he's ready, and then I get a phone call. And he says, he asked me a question, and I said, "Oh, Chris, just take the bus." And he said, "What?" And I said, "Just take the bus." And he said, "I've never taken a bus before. I don't know how to do that."
Yep. Yeah. So, it's true, right? Even as best prepared we are, there are those things we will not know. Yeah.
And so living in the Owen Sound area, which is absolutely fabulous, we never had to take a bus.
Right, yeah. I share a similar story in that I panicked. There was about 1.5 feet of snow on the sidewalk, and that was the day I thought that I should take the bus instead of walking around. And I was in Waterloo at the time. And I didn't know how frequently a bus would stop. So I pulled this yellow cord and I walked another 2 kilometers because I thought it only stopped, every so often. So, it's how best now it sounds like you got Chris well and ready. life skills were,
Yeah.
were formed in terms of financial management, to which that's a real thing, understanding cash flow, understanding. I would suggest to you that wherever I am or wherever I have been, and if I'm speaking to loved ones of students that are going or students themselves, I've done a couple talks in the area with local high school students. There's a couple things that certainly one can focus on right now as you're getting ready for transition. The biggest priority, I would say, is to establish some way of being able to prioritize in your life the things that are most important. That seems easy, and obvious in terms of how I describe it, but to be able to establish priorities and then allocate time to meet your priorities is how I would suggest thinking about it. So often we talk about time management, but I sometimes feel like it doesn't quite meet the mark. It's actually about priority management and then allotting your time to meet your priorities. Because you might have a part-time job or a full-time job. Your studies are going to take you in different directions depending on what the program is. And I'm talking about whether, if it's college, if it's university, or if you're going to trade school. Luckily, we have 750 apprentices on our campus in Owen Sound now. So we've got a lot of offerings that could keep you close to home, but you might need to leave. And so in any of those instances, how you manage your priorities and then allocate time to meet those priorities is, I'd suggest you the most important skill and oftentimes the least developed skill. And that is clearly the one that I would say would carry you through in your professional career as well. So that's one to really zero in on.
Oh, well, that's really good advice because, as you said, that's probably the one that most people don't focus on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we know everyone is attached to a cell phone these days.
Me too.
And so students who are leaving home actually, have this device in their hand, which we didn't have years ago. We didn't have that device. We had to navigate very much on our own. But are you finding that there's still that dependence on the parents as they move away?
I think every person's different, and I don't want to assess on whether that's right or wrong.
No.
Everyone has their support network and they have what they need. But as we're growing into our own lives, sometimes it's a lot easier to make a phone call or to text. I mean, it's more of text than phone calls now. To be able to ask that question as opposed to sorting it out. That's the discomfort that we occupy when we're going through these major transitions in life. And I would suggest to you that going to school, as you said, it could be a couple kilometers down the road or it could be quite a distance. Regardless, it's a transition in life. And there's new environment, there are new peers, there's new instructors, there's new responsibilities. So in those moments of discomfort, we often lean on the things we're most familiar with. Again, I don't think that's inherently wrong, but for us to maximize this growth opportunity and to really step into it is to exist in that messy middle, that unknown. And I have a 6.5-year-old daughter, and we're having the same conversation. And I don't want to say that, someone who's 18 is at the same place developmentally, but to talk about that learning zone, that space between not knowing and knowing, and it's often uncomfortable and it's filled with anxious feelings and perhaps self-doubt and the narrative we have in our mind around what we might or might not be able to achieve, and to be able to lean into that, recognizing that that's the uncomfortable space that's actually a learning zone. That's the feeling you've got, that's going to lend itself well when you get on the other side of it. As we think about how we manage our priorities in time, that's an example of how we actually step into that space and build those skills.
Well, one of the things is we always said to our boys, and we prepared them all through high school, is that when you go to post-secondary, whatever that choice is, you have to go into residence. And so they always knew that they would be leaving and going into a residence. And we said, it's because we want you to experience the campus life. We want you to be able to navigate and make friends and develop your own person through that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. That actually, when I was doing my doctoral work, I was focusing on that a little bit in terms of this connectivity, this what we would call the sort of stickiness between the institution and the student, or the student and the institution. And it matters for a whole host of reasons. But that ability to connect with community and actually to contribute to building community. What's wonderful in post-secondary is that there are so many options, to be able to step into a space that you care about, that gets you going. And in my instance, it was, I was doing house council or hall council, residence hall council. That was for me. So I lived in residence in first year. And so I connect very much to my own experience. Coming from a small town, we didn't yet have our Tim Hortons and we only had one street light. We might still only have one street light in Southampton, but we have a Tim's now. And to go from there, and yes, never having ridden a bus, but the high school, I was at St. Mary's in Owen Sound, it was such a rich community. And there were so many things outside of the classroom that I got engaged with that made me a better student inside the classroom. It lent itself to retention and persistence to graduation because I cared more. I'd say the same thing for anyone who's going away to school or staying close to home to school is get involved in the campus community because of a couple reasons. You will not appreciate fully the networks you form until a little bit later in life. The connections that I made in my first 4 years, my undergrad, show up all the time. It was my wedding party. It was, it's the people that I call for life advice and that we try and still get together. And we've gone through so much together, so many different phases of life. So that network matters so much. But while you're there, it connects you more deeply to the place. It's a sense of purpose as to why you're there. So I love that you encourage that they would live in residence. You can achieve those things without living in residence, although sometimes it can be a little bit harder. But it's about, stepping into whether it's clubs in your program, it's just those that you're studying with. But it is easier, I would say these days, to retreat into yourself, to depend on what you've got in your hand, your cell phone. You've got networks of friends, great, that you've grown up with, stay in touch with them. But it's so easy to lean on those and not to try and form some new friendships. And that makes all the difference, I would say.
Well, I think too, for some folks, for some students who are leaving home for the first time and sort of feel untethered, there's that sort of that letting loose experience as well. None of which my boys experienced, I'm sure. I'm sure. But at the same time, how does the college manage that? When do you have like workshops or information nights or things like that that can help students sort of navigate? Because when you let loose, there's always consequences. I could never again decide what might be the right way for someone to spend their time if they're they're out of class, they've got their coursework done. What we do, and I would say every institution does this, right? I love our team on campus at Georgian across our 7 campuses, and our team in Owen Sound just actually finished a new student orientation yesterday. Wow. The wonderful thing about our campus is that we have new students on campus all the time. So we have a number of new PSW students that just started yesterday. They get an orientation. So we're talking about here's how you find your way around campus. Here's what a typical week would look like. Here's what you can expect in terms of homework, in-class work. What do your labs demand of you? And then how are you going to manage that with a part-time or full-time job? So we talk about that, right? Like that priority management and allocating your time. I come back to that. But really, when you take a look at all of the support services that are around, sometimes it's not obvious right away that you might need to access them. Counseling, tutoring. We have our full library staff, and again, many of our campuses have that, and many post-secondary campuses have that. There's a lot of wraparound supports that make a real difference if you're able to access them. So untethered might look like you're out on a Friday night, or it might look like you're kind of lost in the wind. One, that's natural, to feel less settled, and that's that messy middle learning space. But there are things you can step into, and that's your wraparound supports, and as you suggested, and I think it's right around getting involved with the community as well. I will not legislate how someone might spend their evenings, but I will say it comes at you fast. It's a heavier course load, especially if you're coming direct from high school. It's a heavier course load.
And if you have been out of school for a while, to which we have many students that have been out of school for a while, it's that adjustment period as well. So just, if you can stay on top of that, then you're in a good spot. But we got supports for you if you feel like you're slipping there.
So how would someone access those supports? Because generally when we go off to post-secondary, we think we've got it all together. We think we know. And sometimes the advice from a close adult, a parent, doesn't resonate the same way as the same advice coming from another source.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend for students to, do they have a guidance counselor, or do you have actually full service counseling?
Yeah, I remember a narrative, and I should be clear, I had wonderful educators, wonderful teachers, wonderful supports in high school, but every once in a while there was this narrative that would come out to say, you're on your own.
Oh, yeah.
You're totally on your own. I would suggest to you that wasn't entirely accurate. You are on your own in that you are stepping into adulthood if you're coming from high school. And again, we've got people that are all the way up to 55, 60 years old on our campus. So very different ages and stages in their career. For everyone that's on our campus, and I would suggest you any campus, there are a number of people that can be approached. And every campus is a little bit different. So some you might be living in residence, and there's what's called an RA or a DON, a CA. They go by a slightly different name depending on the institution, but that's a peer leader or near to peer that really has been, they've gone through a lot of training, and they've got access to the kind of network of supports that we might be seeking out. So that's a great, I would say for many, that's a primary point of contact to find out what is available to them and how they might be able to access a place like tutoring or counseling or something like that. But if you're on our campus, we have a welcome desk as soon as you walk in. And it's sort of a, think of it almost like a triage center.
Yeah.
I'm looking for tutoring. I am looking for the library. I'm looking for free academic upgrading. I'm looking for career and co-op. They can really help to connect you right away. So campuses will have that. Something like a service center or really, I think everyone who works in post-secondary education, and perhaps education more broadly, really cares about, and the reason why we show up every day is to support your personal growth. We want to see you win. So we're going to find the answer in whatever way we can. There's really no wrong door. So if those people that I've mentioned aren't immediately obvious to you, you can speak to really anybody. There is no wrong door, and we will help you find what you need.
I really like the idea that it's almost intergenerational population, because sometimes a young student might find a friendship with an older student who's had more life experience, and they may be able to bond and to, I certainly know I've taken courses at Georgian College, even though I have a degree, and two actually, but I still sought additional information from Georgian College here in Owen Sound, and it was nice to have that full spectrum of ages, because you're able to connect better. Not only that, an older student who has more life experience can contribute to the class in a different level. Not a higher level, but just a different level because of the experience. And so there's this sharing. And then there's a better understanding of the first year student who is just, this is how I see life, and this is how I see life. And we can work together on projects and build a companionship or a better product in the end.
I so agree with that. And different life stories and different stages in their lives. We're really lucky. I mean, the Owen Sound campus, as I said, we've got people at all ages and stages in their career and from many corners of the earth. We've got a number of international students on campus, and those that are very local, those that are coming from urban centers towards our more rural communities. And what a special opportunity and unique opportunity to be able to come together and be together for, it could be as short as 8 months, it could be as long as 4 years. I would say that there is a lot of that mentorship that does happen, and it doesn't matter what stream we're talking about. So We do a number of things on campus. We have post-secondary programs. We have 1, 2, 3, 4-year programs. We have our standalone 4-year honors of Bachelor in Science, in nursing, I should say, for instance, graduate education through graduate certificates. Well, within all of those programs, you have people that are coming, maybe it's the first time they're going to school, but we have a lot that are doing a career shift or 2 career shifts. There's a student that I can think of that just graduated from our marine engineering program. Who's 34 years old, and this is his 3rd career. Yeah. Right. So his life experience has really informed a lot of conversations that he's had in the classroom and how he makes sense of his experience and his learning, that I think adds a level of maturity to the learning environment and really lends itself to having some people that they take it more seriously, but then they also know when to not take it so seriously. So some good balance there.
So there's still the Friday night, and there's still the Saturday night.
Yeah, exactly.
But you have to be up at 8 o'clock and in class on Monday morning.
You got that. Or if you're, most of our apprentices, 7 a.m.
Oh, 7 a.m. All right.
Yeah. It's been neat, actually, having offered, we've grown apprenticeship education from 100 apprentices in 2017 to over 700 now. So that's been really rapid growth. The reason why we did that is because as we're talking about people leaving the region, that can be really cost prohibitive for some. And if you're in trade school, you might be in school for, let's say, 8 to 10 weeks at a time. And you'll do that 3 or 4 times over roughly as many years. Well, that means if you had to go, typically apprentices would need to go to places like London or Kitchener-Waterloo, Toronto. They would need to get a hotel room. They were away from their loved ones. And so it actually ended up costing a considerable amount of money, whereas now we can offer that close. But you've got people that are moving through that journey that are really, again, at all ages and stages of their career. And so they bring experience from their trade or from a parallel trade or from a different life experience into that space. And so that's what I love so much about campus life, is that diversity of thought and experience.
Well, I love the idea of diversity of cultures and religions and traditions. This is one thing. My viewers know that this is a statement I make all the time about the inclusive in our community, and having people from other countries come to our community only make it more vibrant. So now they're coming onto your campuses and they're sharing their cultural traditions and religions, and I think that just makes our community better. This is I feel that I've watched Georgian College evolve over the past 40 years that we've been in this community, from a very small campus to expanding to these incredible programs. Because at one time, if you got your first year here, but then you'd have to go to Barrie for your second year. And now it has become more inclusive and has grown substantially. So it's now really becoming one of the anchors in our community for education and moving on. But I also like the comment that you made, not everyone can afford to leave town to get an education, and now it's being brought here to our community.
It's a cost issue, and also we have really high caliber programming. Sometimes those two might, you think, okay, it's an access focus, and we're thinking about cost, and that's true. I mean, Ontario's colleges are very affordable for students. The tuition price is down considerably, and the ability to live close to home if that's what you want to do. But we also see an inflow of people, I think I'd mentioned before. For our 4-year nursing degree, we have people coming from Toronto and Kitchener-Waterloo and London and Barrie towards our region because they're looking for the ways in which we've developed elite programming, really strong post-secondary programming at an affordable price point, but in small classes as well. So our ability to be able to have a low ratio of student to faculty, it really changes the learning experience. Now you have a very close relationship with academic technologists as well as faculty to be able to ask questions and learn differently. It's a lot more focused on hands-on and experiential learning.
Well, I think for someone who is a bit on the shy side, leaving home for the first time, and perhaps even having to move to Owen Sound to have a class. So you're out of high school, and maybe not feeling as confident as you were in your high school, you know, you're king of the road kind of thing in that last year. Now you're moving into an environment where you're not. Being in a small class has the advantage of being able to build your confidence level faster. Because what is really important, people need to be seen and they need to be heard. And that helps to build your confidence. You know, I'm worthwhile. I should be here. As opposed to, oh, am I in the right place? Look, everybody's smarter than me. I didn't know it was going to be like this. You know, we all have our insecurities about that, stepping into that new environment. And so the smaller class would really help to not only build the confidence, but also take the programming and what you're doing more seriously. You know, I know some kids, I maybe had one who feels that going off to to college and being completely untethered gives you the freedom and the license to do whatever you want, but then there's always consequences. But you know, coming back and being grounded again, because you have older students who are influencing you, but not judging you.
Yeah, and our programming is so industry connected and career focused. That also, I think, is a good grounding force in their lives as well. That there's a way in which when they're coming to school and they're with us at Georgian, we've worked very hard to be connected to local employers so that the programs line up with the jobs. And I think that again, I think it's very grounding for people and important. I connect to that you know, thought of feeling untethered and I remember going into my first year, and I was about 3 days in, and I thought I was in the wrong spot. And I called my mom and said, and she actually encouraged me. She said, "You got to give it another couple days, and then we'll reconnect on that." And thank goodness she encouraged me to do that in that moment. Right? We need our supports that we're confident with and that we're comfortable with in those moments. But to also encourage me to step into this a little bit more. And I've been working in education ever since. Right, so what a watershed moment that was. But you know, I would say for anyone who's going through this transition, it's normal to feel uncomfortable. Live in the messy as much as you can while leaning on your support networks. Be open. Don't be married to a particular plan. Be open. Because many change their program offerings as they get introduced to something they never thought was possible before. And really the community is there to support you.
Oh, well, you know, David, that was the perfect wrap up because my camera crew
I could hear some shuffling, so I figured that's what,
where our time is up. Barb is so good.
Yes.
She is very good.
And
so thank you so much. And join me next time on Over Coffee.
Thank you.
That went so fast.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details. Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
After a night out with your friends, there's always options for getting home safely. You could call your BFF, your mom or dad, whoever you can count on for a safe ride home. You could call your favorite cab company or 1-888 taxi guy. Or you could use the Arrive Alive smartphone app to help you choose your ride. Be it a friend, transit, or taxi, getting home safely is app easy. Now available for iOS and Android devices. Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive, drive sober.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend,